As long as Wall Street stayed up, it was a good deal. And prior to 1971, it was really smart to save money because after 1971, they started printing it. 74 was the ERISA. 74 was a major change. And then came the 87 stock market crash, and a few people understood that the thing about gambling. Then came the Glass-Steagall. They repealed Glass-Steagall, I think around 1995 or something like that. It made commercial banks and investment banks the same. You could gamble. And there was so much corruption that came when you had investment banks and regular savings banks getting together. So they started putting savings of the savers into the stock market. That's what the repeal of Glass-Steagall did. Then we had the crash of 2000, which they called the dot-com crash. Then came 2008. They call it a subprime mortgage crash. And they blamed the poor people for the crash, but it wasn't the poor people who did it. Again, it was Wall Street, the Treasury, and the Fed. And then they never fixed the problem. And all they did was print more money. So 1971 continued on in mass after 2008. They started coming up with things called quantitative easing. And what that quantitative easing was to do was to keep money into the economy because it was like this huge hot air balloon going in the sky that if that hot air balloon came down, the little gondola was you and me. We'd get crushed. The baby boomers have only known an up market. And now the end is near. They're starting to retire out just as the market is topping. China's coming down. We have trouble in Europe. I'm just watching this whole thing going, what's going to happen to the boomers? Because they actually had it the easiest of any generation I've ever seen.
The boomers had it the easiest of all generations. You know, when we came out of high school, in college and high school, we put money in the stock market, everything went up. We bought houses, everything went up. And now it's about to come down. What happens in a bull market is that at the top, people are happy. So here we are at the top of a bull market. But when the bear goes out the window, it comes down so fast. Like I think it was Ernest Hemingway who said, how did you go bankrupt? Slowly at first, then suddenly. Suddenly it's coming.
You know, if you like stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, have a good life. But once I saw the process of how you take nothing, you take a bunch of BS, and you turn it into a stock and you take it public on the Toronto Stock Exchange, and then, if lucky, it goes to the NASDAQ or the New York Stock Exchange. I really don't like the process personally, you know, but all it did was convince me why gold, silver, and today Bitcoin, far more solid investments given what's going on in the economy.
The big debate is there inflation or deflation? And if you look historically, what's happened today is the nominal debt to GDP is a correlation of M2, the volume of money, times the velocity of money. And the reason Yellen and Powell are scrambling is because they've expanded M2, so everybody thinks there's going to be inflation. But the velocity of money is plummeting. People are not spending.
In 1970, when I graduated from school, $1 million at 15% interest earned me $150,000 a year. Now, you could live on $150,000 a year back then. But in 2016, due to this thing called quantitative easing, I call it the Greenspan put. It's $1 million at negative 5 basis points. It's going to cost you $1 million to save $1 million. That is how deteriorated our financial systems have become. And this is one of the causes between the gap between the rich and the poor. This book came out, Communist Manifesto came out in 1848. But in 1965, I left Hawaii and I went to school in New York, military school. First word is mission. What is the mission? Everything is mission driven. And then my instructor to study economics, he had us read the Communist Manifesto, Mein Kampf, Mao's little book, and other things. So we understood who the enemy was. What he recognized was the flaws, again, in 1848, the flaws in capitalism. So stage one would be socialism, which we had in 1933, FDR puts us on Social Security, we got welfare, Obamacare, and we've Now we have so many Americans without that government stimmy check. We're finished.
Before we continue, help us clicking that YouTube like button and subscribe now to our channel. This shows the algorithm that you valued this information. And it helps us spread that message. Sharing is caring. And now, let's continue.
I have bad news for you. If you're not rich by now, you're screwed. And if you're in debt, you're even double screwed. How so, you might wonder? Well, the sad truth is that you're working your whole life to make someone else rich. The mega corporations, the banks, the politicians, everyone is getting richer. They get your money. And what is even worse, they get your time, they get your life. You are not even in a rat race. You're in a financial prison. But what could a solution for you look like? Honestly, I don't know, but I know what a solution for me would look like. It's very simple. I use whatever money I have and I multiply it with 1,000. This could make my life much easier and probably yours as well. If you have $1,000 available and multiply this with 1,000, I believe that this could solve some financial issue for the one or the other. Of course, if you're ugly, you would have to multiply it with much more than 1,000. My name is Marco Stan, and this is what I decided to do. I decided to 1000x my money. This is not a joke. I know what you may be thinking. What is this guy talking about? How should this work? This is not possible. Well, I made a detailed video where I laid out my plan. And some clever folks might even want to look at this plan and copy it and do exactly what I do. This is just a little hint on the side. You have two options. You leave, you forget what you have seen. You do whatever you're doing and you hope that somehow you get some other results. Good luck with that. Or you click the link below the video. You enter your email address because I'm not showing this to everybody. You at least watch my video on how I plan to 1000x my money. The choice is yours. Make the right choice. Join me. See what a different future you could have. See at least how I intend, how I plan to do the 1000x. So click on the link below, enter your email address, and I see you on the other side. Your Marco Stan.